It is Saturday, March 19th, 2022, and we are here with our Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary special podcast thing episode. I don't really know what to call this, but this is a night for us to really appreciate the thing that really got me started in content creation and really built my quote-unquote following on the internet. A lot of you guys are certainly here for Pokemon, and I totally get it. But what you may or may not know about me is that Kingdom Hearts is my first love, and it was the first thing I started creating content for. And I'm really excited to share that with you guys today. I'm really excited to share that with you. So obviously you guys could definitely talk about Pokemon today, but the main focus is going to be on Kingdom Hearts and my journey through creating content and working for news sites that sort of led me to be sort of where I'm at. And yeah, I mean, the lore of Kingdom Hearts is definitely something we could certainly expand on today. I know for a lot of you it's kind of intimidating because of all the memes and all the jokes about how difficult and convoluted Kingdom Hearts is to get into, and I won't take away from that. It is very convoluted, but at the same time, I grew up with it, and you know, I feel like I'm a lot more accustomed to it than yeah. What is Kingdom Hearts in simple terms? So it was a fever dream back in 2002 where a Disney executive and a Square Enix executive from Japan, they shared a building at the time, Disney Japan and Square Enix. They shared a building at the time, and there was a happenstance in an elevator. Like, this is an actual thing. They met in an elevator on their way up to their, you know, corresponding businesses, and the Final Fantasy rep Shinji Hashimoto said, "Hey, you work for Disney, right? What if what if our game company made a Disney video game? How would you feel about that?" And they said, "Huh, we haven't really done video games before. Let's talk more." And it pretty much was Tetsuya Nomura, who's the game director's fan fiction of Final Fantasy meets Disney. And it super works. Ready? All right, cool. I'm gonna give Churro a call. We're gonna get this started, man. I'm excited. So again, the other person you'll be hearing on the call is Churro, an absolute legend in the Kingdom Hearts news community. Before we get started, Churro, I just want to first off thank you for doing this with me. I know this is kind of, I don't know if it was last second as much as it was just really hoping and praying that you would do this with me. Because when I think Kingdom Hearts news, I don't know anybody better to talk to than you. So thank you
of course,
for doing this.
You're welcome. In 9 months, that would be 20 years. That
is exactly why I felt the need to bring you on. Like, not only is it the Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary, it's your 20th anniversary of reporting Kingdom Hearts news to the people. So yeah. That is a huge feat, and obviously nobody else can catch up because you started at the beginning, and I can't imagine you stopping anytime soon. As much as you want to, I don't know if you're going to be able to.
I was 16 years old. I was a junior in high school when Kingdom Hearts, you know, was getting ready to come out.
Right.
So I've heard about Kingdom Hearts from E3 2001 when it was announced, but I didn't, because I was a huge. Well, let me back up a little bit. I was a Final Fantasy fan first.
Right.
So that's how I got my addiction to Square Enix.
Right.
So basically, since after that, I was like, I wanted more from Square Enix. And it's like, and then Kingdom Hearts came out. I paid no attention to it. Then Kingdom Hearts came out in Japan, March 28th, you know. Mm-hmm. I saw a bunch of American game magazines covering it. Uh-huh. And I was like, okay. Once I saw the cameos by the Final Fantasy characters, I was like, okay, my interest, you know, shot up.
Peaked to like 100%. Yep.
So, okay, fast forward to September. It's, you know, release time in North America, September 17th.
Right.
You know, I pick up the game actually like 3 days later. I was, you know, hyped for it. And then I finished it, I think, in November.
Uh-huh.
Because I was a senior in high school at the time, so basically school was important. So I finally finished it about 2 months later. Then basically I've been browsing a lot of forums, mainly GameFAQs, and a bunch of like, all these obscure ones that that were just big old gaming sites.
I think we have to remind people that like things like YouTube did not exist back then.
It didn't.
So
like none of this it happened. None of this was here.
There was no Wikipedia. There was no YouTube. We were dealing with GameFAQs, and like that's about it. That's where you went for your game news.
That's where everything was coming from.
Yeah.
So I was basically just doing my own thing, and then all of a sudden I see a thread on GameFAQs on the Kingdom Hearts board. Was like, what is Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, and why is it getting re-released in Japan for full price? A lot of people assumed it was kind of like how they have the greatest hits version.
Yeah. So it's like they had the red label for the PS2 games, right?
Yeah, a lot of people assumed it was that, but it's like, no, it's being re-released.
Huh.
And
new things.
New thing. And back then, like you said, there was no Wikipedia, so nobody knew exactly what this was.
Right.
And not many people knew the differences between the North American release and the Japanese release. So basically, the North American and European releases got extra boss battles, like one of them being Sephiroth.
Right.
The original Japanese version never got that. So what had happened was I ended up just scouring like the interwebs, like corner to corner, and I found a thread on, I think it might have been like 2chan. Or some like really foreign website that had like knowledge about what it was, and then it soon it came clear to me like it was a re-release with all the bonuses that the Japanese version never got.
Yeah. And
so I reported my findings, and everybody was like, "Oh, like we didn't know that." And we were like, "Okay, hang on."
Kazaa! Oh my God, Kazaa! Holy moly!
So, as it got closer to release, basically there were so many threads popping up about what this was, and I got tired of answering people. And everybody's like, because by then people were just like, "Oh, go ask Churro." Go ask Churro.
Right.
Back then in GameFAQs, you couldn't tag anybody, so you had to I actually had to see go into the thread itself to actually see it.
Right.
So,
like there's no DMs. There's no
They didn't have that integrated back then.
Wow. No Twitter, no nothing, man. This is crazy. Like this is the start of Kingdom Hearts news presentation. You had to find it on GameFAQs. You had to really care. Like you had to look. It didn't just pop up on your timeline one day.
They didn't. Square Enix didn't just throw it out for you. You had to rely on other people to do it for you.
And Churro was the guy. Churro was the guy that people had to go to get this information, because Churro was the one that cared the most, I would say, to go out and look for this stuff and compile it somewhere.
Then here comes the next part of the story. So I got tired of repeating myself like all these different threads.
Right.
So I was like, okay, let me just find something to compose it into one area.
Right.
So I actually had I had a personal blog that I made for myself.
Right.
For things that I enjoyed. So I was like, I already have something. So what I did was, with my best HTML experience that I had back in those days, I created like a simple splash page saying, "This is Kingdom Hearts Final Mix.
Wow.
This is what it will have." And basically, I started linking that, and then pretty soon everybody started linking that.
Right.
And then this was after release of Final Mix, because that's when all the news became apparent.
Right.
So this was Kingdom Hearts Final Mix released December 26th. I finally put a site up on December 28th.
Yeah.
So 2 days after. And then after about maybe 25 minutes of my site being live, it died.
Oh my God. Like
it was too much traffic. It was just so much people just
oh my God.
Because I was compiling screenshots too.
Yeah.
What people was giving me.
It's a lot of image hosting.
And back then web hosts was expensive.
Right.
For that time.
Right.
and you also got really low bandwidth. There's like no unlimited bandwidth like you see nowadays. Like I was paying like almost $100 a month for like 20 gigs of bandwidth.
Oh my god!
And this is high school money too.
Right.
This is me like working like a part-time job and going to finishing my last year of high school.
Wow, that is crazy.
And so then when it died because I went over my bandwidth limit, I went back to the drawing board. The site was called, for those who didn't know, it was called Zitty.net, and Zitty was a nickname because I used to go by the name Zidane because I was a huge Final Fantasy IX fan.
Right.
So I created that URL. So I went back to the drawing board and I was like, I bought the domain KH20.net.
Yep.
And
there it was.
January 3rd is when that went live. Because
that's awesome.
During that downtime, there were several people back in the day had a capture card. You know, those were expensive.
Right. Early days capture cards.
So, yep. And then since there was no YouTube and file hosting was really expensive, guess what we had to use?
LimeWire.
LimeWire, Kazaa, peer-to-peer programs.
Wow.
So I remember having to keep my computer on for like 3 days just to download,
just to upload it. Oh my god. So that's like just a small glimpse of like the hoops that had to be jumped through just to get information into people's hands, right? So fast forward like 10 years after that, a little website called Tumblr gets released, and little like college freshman Glax here. That's sort of where I got my start in the Kingdom Hearts realm. I had a Kingdom Hearts Tumblr that was just basically me reposting and posting new things about Kingdom Hearts until one day, like, yeah, it was an obscenity, but blank Kingdom Hearts series, because that was like the thing you did on Tumblr. You named whatever niche you had, it was just blank insert thing. So
yeah, that was a big trend back then.
Yeah, it was a huge trend, and my Tumblr gained about like 40,000 followers just for Kingdom Hearts on Tumblr. And one day, I'll never forget him. His name was Ben. He approached me about Kingdom Hearts Decoded instead of Recoded. He had a website called Kingdom Hearts Decoded. And he scoured the internet for a whole bunch of Kingdom Hearts content creators and you know, writers and bloggers to create content for this small little news site. And I was welcomed on board and wrote a couple articles for him, and then they got I guess noticed by KH20. And Kingdom Hearts 13 and KH Insider were like the prestigious news websites for Kingdom Hearts news at the time. After Churro had established the foundation, people followed in his footsteps and created websites as it became easier and easier for the average Joe to do. And yeah, I got noticed by one of them for the writing that I was doing, and they asked me to hop on in. So they're very different paths that ended up crossing at that juncture. So I would like to talk about the first time we met, which was at E3 2016. And if you remember, E3 2016 was the year that Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced. So we were going, was it 15 or 16?
It was 2013 when it was first announced.
It was announced in 13, sorry. So this is, what was the reason we went? 0.2, right? It's something, no, what was it?
Yes.
It was 0.2, right?
Yeah, because in 2015, they had the re-announcement for 3.
Right.
And then the following year was 0.2.
Second announcement. Yeah. Right, yeah. So this was for 0.2, which was insane that we got to go and play the first Kingdom Hearts game on a PS4 ever. So that was so much fun. But during that E3, we actually got the chance to speak with the co-director of the series, Taisue. which was so cool to be able to do.
Very, very chill, down to earth person.
Awesome guy. And you know, if you guys know Tetsuya Nomura, very sheltered, very much keeps to himself, and does not, you know, does not openly interview very often with just random folk. But Tayasue was the other half that would totally interact with fans and you know, the people that like our side of the internet. Like, we're not working for IGN or anything. We don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, but I would say KH13 and KH Insider had really, really, really good followings for what they were.
I mean, I didn't have a huge following, but I still managed to interview Nomura.
Right, exactly. So yeah, why don't you tell people about the first time you ever were able to interview Nomura, because that is a great story.
Well, I mean, it happens in the same year. It's 2014. This was, I mean, I'm going to back it up a bit before. This was San Diego Comic-Con, July 2014. Nomura's first ever trip to San Diego Comic-Con. It was like a last minute announcement, like almost. So that's where I first met Nomura, and I got to shake his hand, and it was very, the atmosphere was like very, like, it was awkward because we were both awkward people. So we're both kind of like the same, you know, shy, awkward type of people. So it was great to meet him, to finally, you know, say hi, ask him, you know, and ask him about his experience with Comic-Con, because I was attending Comic-Con since 2009, with 2005 being my first time covering Kingdom Hearts, and he enjoyed it. I was this close of getting a t-shirt that he really liked, because he walked around the floor on his own. On his own.
Wow.
Like, normally at E3, he walks with entourages with him.
Yeah, surrounded.
But he was walking on his own at Comic-Con. So
wow.
It's like...
brave.
And then, so fast forward to December of that same year. This is when 2.5 was coming out. And I woke up to an email from Square Enix. They were like, "Hey,
best email ever."
Well, first I thought I was in trouble, because normally when I get, so when they address me personally, it's like my first instinct is, what did I do wrong this time? So then I wake up and I'm like still in the daze. I'm like glancing at the email. I'm just like, and then I read it to go. One of our groups unfortunately had to cancel interviewing Nomura. Would you like to be the replacement instead?
No.
So then, like, I shot up from my bed and I was like, I gotta read this again.
Yeah, you better make sure you're not dreaming.
So I reread it, and then it's like, it's for real. And then I asked one of my friends from KH Insider if they got the same thing. They're like, yes, we did. So I sent an email back, and they confirmed it. And then on the day on the day of the event, the launch event, after having some car problems on the way, because this was at the Walt Disney Animation Studios in Burbank.
Right. So they were at Disney, right? It was, the interview happened at the Disney Studios.
Yes. So I had to go from, you know, northern San Diego to Burbank, and after encountering several car problems, I was like, I finally got there. The interview was like, they had a little theater there. So we go to the back. You know how, like, Logan, with you being somebody who's been in theater before, you know, the dressing rooms are sometimes kind of cramped and small. Oh, yeah, very small. So here we are in this cramped little dressing room. You have Nomura sitting, you know, with, you know, he's back against the mirror with the little bulbs around it. And then it's me and Cecily from KH Insider. Then you have his Square Enix Japan staff. Two translators and PR.
That is amazing.
So it's the room. It's very intimidating, because it's like, here we have with the list of questions we want to ask them, and it's like we're both nervous because, you know, this is our first time doing something like this.
Absolutely.
And we don't know if, and considering that we are, you know, focused, you know, centrally on Kingdom Hearts and not like a scale of like IGN where they usually ask broader type of questions.
Right. You were able to ask the specific things that fans wanted to know.
Exactly. So we're nervous at the point to where were these questions, you know, acceptable? So If not, we would hear the typical Nomura response. You know, I can't, you know,
Like,
say anything. You know,
just a laugh and then no.
yeah. So
I'm gonna go over to the that is awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the Twitter post that KH20 made, and I want to ask you a couple things. First and foremost, I think this is something that we definitely want to talk about before we say too much, just like story wise, just in case, like, you know, some of these are answers. What has been your absolute favorite Kingdom Hearts event or news moment to this date? What was your favorite thing that you've attended or covered?
So there's a few. I would probably most definitely say the KH3 premiere.
Yeah. Oh,
because
God.
That is something that I always wanted to cover since, you know, I started doing this.
Yeah.
Like, it's something Kingdom Hearts specific. But number two would be the Square Enix. We had this Square Enix private party at E3 2012.
Wow.
And I met one of the workers there who actually got myself and a friend of mine in. Got an invitation because it was invite only, and we got to try a Kingdom Hearts 10th anniversary cake because it was basically
so cool.
So that would be number two right there, because that was just an experience right there.
But for me, my favorite news moment to date that I've covered was the Big Hero 6 announcement for Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, I sort of got there a little bit after Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced, but the first big story that I covered was the Big Hero 6 announcement. And getting that out there and seeing all the positive reception of that, it was just a picture at D23 followed by Roy Conley talking about it in a little video, and that was it. There was no gameplay of it. We just had a picture of Sora riding on the back of Baymax fighting a dark Baymax. But yeah, I am so excited to have been able to cover that on KH13. There's another question that I'd like to ask. When working with Square Enix, have they been accommodating and communicative when you were working to cover Kingdom Hearts news and events? So that's the thing that, like, we have that unique experience that a lot of others don't, is working directly with Square Enix. How would you rate their accommodations and their communication with us?
Before I answer, are there any Square Enix staff in the chat?
Right? Yeah, right. We're gonna go ahead and assume no. I'm gonna guess no on that.
Okay, I just want to cover my bases.
Right.
I mean, they've been handling it pretty well whenever it comes to asking them for things and them then responding. I would give it an 8.5 out of 10.
An 8.5 out of 10. Okay. So I would here's the thing. I mean, the Kingdom Hearts 3 premiere event, being able to be invited to something like that kind of puts me at like a 10. Because no other studio that I've ever worked with, and obviously my experience is a lot shorter than Churros, but in my experience, the fact that they had 2 days for this premiere event, 1 day for all the bigwig, you know, Game Informer and IGN and all of them who are kind of just there because it's the big new release. It's one that, like, nobody expected to ever come out, and now it's here. So it was the big thing to go to for them. But then they created a second day specifically for fans and for people who are content creators and true fans of the game. And who else does that? Like, was there a God of War premiere event? Was there a Call of Duty premiere event? I don't know. Like, for fans to just go to and experience the game for the first time before anybody else in the world. A really good personal question is what drew you to the Kingdom Hearts series in the first place? Like, why spend all this time and energy on Kingdom Hearts news and stuff? Why not anything else?
Because growing up, I grew up on Disney. Like,
right.
So I was always fascinated with the unique worlds each movie brings in. And then back then when I was going through junior high and high school, I used to write a lot of fan fiction. And one of my favorite fan fictions to write was like crossovers.
Right.
So here is, a teenage boy crossing over into different Disney worlds, helping them with the problems and stuff. So that type of, story kind of drew me to it.
Right.
So it kind of put, just made it solidify why, I love this series. It's just the ability to go to these Disney worlds I've always wanted to when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that vessel for me.
Right. And I feel like the answer to that for us might be the same answer for anybody, and like why it's their favorite game and why they buy every game in the series. It's because it's that enticing. It's just that important to us. And my personal story is that was the first video game that I got to choose that I wanted to play. Like, when you're young, people like your parents or your guardians or whoever, they buy the things for your birthday party and stuff. Like, I don't know. But this is the first game that I saw on the shelf. I had no idea. I'd never seen commercials for it. I saw it on the shelf and I was like, ooh, I see Donald and Goofy. I want that. What part of the series continues to draw back? Is that like sort of the same sort of question? Like, is it still that way? Is it just the nostalgia that keeps us coming back, or what?
To me, it's just the unknown.
Yeah.
It just comes down to what is like the end game for this series. It's
right? Like, it took us 20 years to get to like the end of one arc.
Yeah. So now it's like, what is the moral planning now that they're, these characters are now in a, unreality, but looks like reality type of world now. It's like, where do you go from there? To me, it's just the uncertainty of what's going to happen next.
Right. It's definitely the storytelling. Like it really is the world that has been created outside of the Disney aspect that keeps me coming back to it, because at this point, as we've seen, as the series has continued to go and grow, Disney is becoming less and less important, which I'm scared of, to be honest. But I think we can still expect Disney stuff to be a thing. Which brings me to another question. My buddy Alpaca asks, if you could pick one of the newer Disney properties to be in the next Kingdom Hearts, which would you pick? New movies, new properties. What do you want in Kingdom Hearts 4 or next? Kingdom Hearts next.
Does Cars 3 count?
Cars 3?
Yeah. No, it was a joke.
I know it was a joke.
No, but I recently saw. Well, I finally saw Encanto. So basically, I enjoyed that. So I would say Encanto for sure.
Yeah, Encanto is huge. I love that. Man, imagine like just touring that entire house, like all the rooms in there. Oh, that'd be so good.
Yeah.
I would have to say, as far as worlds go, I am very, very, very excited for a Moana World. It could be like the Kingdom Hearts 4 version of Pirates of the Caribbean. Like with all the open waters and stuff like that. But even the island itself would be super exciting, and they could play a lot with that. But we got another question in chat. If AJ asks, if you had to pick, what was your favorite single area or world in any of the Kingdom Hearts games? So you have to pick like a world from a game, because there are some that don't appear in multiple, so that wouldn't be fair.
Interesting. I would probably, honestly, I really enjoyed the Neverland in Kingdom Hearts 1.
In Kingdom Hearts 1 Neverland. Oh, so much fun. It was like the pirate ship, really, but it's so much fun, so much nostalgia, so like the plot points that happen in that world. Oh, it was so good.
Actually, like that's when the story actually started to pick up again. You see Kairi and Riku on the ship.
Right.
Then it leads into Halabashan. So basically, that's like the starting point to where
that's where like the drama really picks up.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say, and this is going to be very cliche, but I would have to say that my favorite is Halloween Town. That was what really drew me to the game in the first place. Like, really, I saw the cover and I saw Donald and Goofy. That made me pick the game up. But I turned it over and saw Jack Skellington in that little square on the back of Kingdom Hearts 1. That's what made me, like, want it. Like, that is really where I just fell in love with the game. I love Nightmare Before Christmas, and they nailed the aesthetic down. The costume change was amazing. So I have to say Halloween Town is my favorite by far. Lands asks, what was Churro? So this is specifically for you. What was your most memorable moment while covering Kingdom Hearts? Like your favorite moment in either of these events or news things that occurred? Like when you think about your quote unquote career in covering Kingdom Hearts news, what is your most, like your first memory that pops in your head because it's the most special to you?
Probably meeting Nomura for the first time.
Oh yeah, like that's got to be like the cream of the crop of this stuff. Like,
but I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna say, you know, I'm gonna add two more. My number two,
please,
was meeting Utada Hikaru.
Oh.
I was, because like if I hadn't met Nomura, then that would have been my number one.
Wow.
But it wasn't for Kingdom Hearts. It was for her the release of her second English album, and she did a little tour at the she went to like 4 different Sephora stores, one in Hollywood, one in Florida, one in New York, and I don't know if it's 3 or 4, but and by chance I was in the right place at the right time, and they said they were going to do a quick photo session with her. So being able to have a photo with Utada was like another big one for me as well.
By the way, for those who don't know, Utada Hikaru is the singer of the theme song, Simple and Clean. So, and Sanctuary, obviously, but.
And of course, my number 3 would be San Diego Comic-Con 2005. That would be the first time I ever covered a Kingdom Hearts at a event.
Oh wow!
But I mean, in the end, it was the best moments were just being able to experience it with people who shared the same feelings, the same passion. You know, it's like those, you know, it's one of those things where like you can wish you can relive over and over again. And
yeah,
I mean,
if you had the opportunity, like you as the audience, if you guys had the opportunity to get your hands on like the next release in your favorite series, that's what we got to live through. Like we got to provide the happiness that like anytime something news related is released, we were the ones that were kind of responsible for that for a lot of people. So we got to bring that joy to others because we had our own like insider sort of sources and you know, places to get information first. And we were able to be that segue into people getting the news. And that is a very unique experience. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that people don't realize about this is the pressure that there is to be first, to be the quickest, to be the most accurate. And I mean, there's another part of this that like I definitely wanted to bring up, is that like even amongst the people doing the same things, like there's some competition there. There were definitely some headbutting going on, and there was definitely some competition between the Kingdom Hearts news sites and all that stuff. But I have to say, being the liaison, if you will, of KH13 at the time and hanging out with the folks at KH Insider and yourself, I did not feel like that was necessary because we all became like the best of friends, and having to live together for 3 days at E3, we became great friends, and I'm so glad that I met you all. And I will treasure all of those memories for the rest of my life. All because of a stupid little video game about a stupid spiky haired boy with a giant key running around Disney Worlds, you know? So there's a lot there that people just don't realize about this sort of hobby. Like we didn't get paid for it. Did you get paid at all for this?
Not for the most part, no.
Yeah, I mean, I
mean, I spent more money than I have actually made any money on.
Right, exactly. I feel like, yeah, I've definitely spent more to be at these events and stuff. So Churro, a question that I came up with that I wanted to ask is like, for the next series, like the next arc, how involved in the news are you going to be?
I'll still be involved. Like I'll be there, like front and center.
I love that.
Because I mean, even though I'm getting older, you know, and my times, you know, being able to do things because of my jobs and personal
Right.
life, it's, sometimes I become, what's the word? I get a little scared sometimes that I wouldn't be able to cover as much as I would, but so far it's been working out pretty much, the same way it's always been. The
Right.
only difference is that I don't have a site anymore. I don't work for a site anymore. I don't have a podcast to work for anymore.
Right.
This is like the first time since like 2007, 6,
Mhm.
where I was actually freelance again. And that's over a 10-year difference because I
Yeah.
had always had Kingdom Hearts Ultimania, I had Kingdom Hearts Union, but for the last like 3 years, it's been like or actually last year, I should say, since KH20
Yeah.
disbanded. And, it's been that long since, I've actually had to work on my own again.
Right. And I mean, it's been like, as the community likes to say, dry. It's been pretty dry for the last year or so.
I mean, they started off with big by announcing, Sora for Smash last year in October, and then they announced, the last the update to Dark Road, but then
never happened.
It got delayed again, but yeah, it never happened. And then of course now we got the whole announcement of the April 10th event,
right?
So which we're almost there, less than a month away.
I'm very excited to see what comes next. But yeah, I mean, I'm unfortunately not like super involved in the news sector anymore, but I'll be definitely covering it for my own personal like excitement. Like I still have these sources, and I still know where to look and who to look for. But yeah, I mean,
that was gonna be my question for you though. I was gonna would you ever consider coming back?
I mean, I definitely have considered it, for sure. I want to come back, but I just don't know how to approach it, and I don't know how much time I have in my day. Like, I don't know how much help I could really be at this point. But if I had all the time in the world to use, I would 100% be back. But yeah, I would love to. I think with Kingdom Hearts 4, like the starting on April 10th, like I'm gonna do my absolute best to report what I can. I mean, I have my own sort of following as well. It's not nearly as large as a news website would be, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you and I should team up. Who knows? I don't know.
As they say, never say never, and Destiny
exactly
never left a chance.
Right. Crowborn asks, for someone who's never played Kingdom Hearts before, what game in the series would you recommend as a starting point?
It will come down to either, chronological or release order.
Right. So yeah, the thing about Kingdom Hearts is that there are games that are out of order in the timeline. So what would you recommend, Churro?
I always recommend, release order. So starting with Kingdom Hearts, the game that started it all.
Yeah.
Then just make your way through it. Of course, there's going to be times where you'll be jumping from, the present to the past to current, but I always stick by and say, just do it on release order.
Right. Yeah, release order is definitely like, I think what a lot of people would say in the community. Also, hi everybody that just joined. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. But I think the best part is that there are now collections that sort of put it in order for you. So there's a 1.5, a 2.5, and a 2.8 collection. And I know we can't count, whatever. We've heard all the memes, but 1.5, 2.5, and then 2.8. Those are the three that you should focus on, and they're already in order for you. That's the order I would play it in. So
I highly recommend the cloud versions.
Yeah, do not recommend the cloud versions at all. Don't listen to Churro.
I recommend it. Play it on the Switch. Do the Switch version first, because that's the absolute best one you can play.
Stop it. Yeah, definitely play them on PS4 or Xbox. Do not play them on Switch.
And if you want to have a little fun, I recommend PC because mods.
Yes, PC is also a great choice. Yeah, mods are fun, and the Kingdom Hearts modding community has been absolutely killing it.
They have been. I've been playing the Yuzora mod.
Oh, so cool,
and that's been good.
So cool. Lance recommends another order. You can like play or watch days first, and then go from there. Which that puts a lot of story points in perspective. And the movies probably like help you out a lot, because a lot of the gameplay for the DS games is very, how should I say this? Not great. But yeah, I mean, it's just super special to us. Like, we sort of like, as I would say, super fans, we kind of just look past some of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of people would be turned off by it. So
Satria says Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, KH2, Days, Birth by Sleep, coded.
That's good.
Simple
And clean. But yeah, I mean, there's probably a best way to play it, and I would say release order. But yeah, I'm sure you'll have a great time. Like, just go with the one that like looks the coolest to you. Like, do some research first and start there, and then play it again. Like, once you sort of get a feel for Kingdom Hearts. That's what I'd say. Like, if there's one that like speaks to you more than others, or if you heard the best about, I'd say try that game first, get hooked to it, and then go through release order and play that one that you played first again.
And then don't forget Union Cross.
Oh, you can definitely forget Union Cross, but
not if you want to you learn a little bit about what's going to happen in the future.
Oh my god, I know.
Union Cross. At least you don't have to play it. You just watch the cutscenes.
True. Just watch the movies, and they've done you a favor.
Yeah, you don't have to play that or Dark Road anymore. You just watch whatever.
Just watch the movies. God bless. I wish I had that experience, but it is what it is. Are there any other questions that you guys have in either chat?
Yeah, my chat. I mean, we're both streaming. He's streaming on his end. I'm streaming on mine.
Yep.
So if anybody has any questions,
yeah, we're definitely free and open to answer any like brand new questions that you have here. We definitely compiled some on the tweet that KH20 account made, but gone through them all. So. But if anybody has anything else they'd like to know. A couple answers to the question that we asked. So Crowborn says, I've mostly never seen a Kingdom Hearts game anywhere, so like on shelves. And if I have, either it wasn't interested at the time or didn't have the money to get it. And I mean, obviously with all the re-releases for full price, I mean, I could totally understand that. But at this point, the whole Kingdom Hearts series has been available for like $20 lately.
Yeah, you can get 1 through 3, you know, like in Remind.
Right.
For like $20-$30 now.
Yeah. So if you've been like trying to get into it, save up $30 and you can play the entire series on one console.
most of the time the deals are online, so if you follow like Cheap Ass Gamer or Wario 64, you'll see the deals like happen as they come in real time.
I could definitely recommend a couple like Twitter accounts to follow. Alpaca says, I tried playing Kingdom Hearts 1, just couldn't get into it. Coming from Final Fantasy 7 and 9, which are more turn-based, the difference in gameplay was just too different at the time. And that's where like they really changed up the formula. Like the Square Enix releases back then were Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10, and then Kingdom Hearts. Like very different. Very, very different. I think a lot of people got some good stuff out of this, and we told some cool stories, answered some cool questions. Are there any closing thoughts that you have here, buddy?
I mean, just keep being who you are. I mean, the community is, of course, there's some bad eggs in the community, but at the same time,
what community doesn't have
the community? They actually look out for each other.
Yeah.
You have artists, cosplayers, streamers, YouTubers, artists, news writers. It's modders. Now.
Yeah.
It's the community is just amazing. Like never in the almost 20 years I've been doing this, I would ever see this community expand as much as it did. And thank you so much for wanting me to be on here.
Yeah, dude. Again, like I said at the start, like you don't have the Kingdom Hearts community that we have if you aren't part of it. You really are a staple member of this community, whether people realize it or not. There are people that recognize what you do and how you sort of got us to this point. So, thank you for doing that. I also just wanted to say, the real reason that we keep coming back is because of the friendships that we've made, and you know, to see just how special and important it is 20 years later to people. It's just like, that's how special this game really is. I know it seems like a kid game or whatever, but it's so much more than that. And you know, we have unique experiences of being like growing up with it, you know. You'll definitely be hearing me scream about Kingdom Hearts hopefully very soon. So just wanted to let that, like, as a closing thought, I just wanted to thank those of you who are part of my community, who don't really get to see my passion for Kingdom Hearts on streams. Thank you for showing up and just being a part of the discussion, and for listening and to learning more about me. Like, this is important to me personally, to be able to talk about this stuff and share this with you guys. This is a side that I don't really get to share anymore because it's so far in the past, and Kingdom Hearts has not been, you know, super relevant recently. So thank you guys for listening in and being a part of the discussion, even if you really don't have that Kingdom Hearts connection like some of us, I would say, again, super fans have. But I do implore you to try it. If you've never played Kingdom Hearts, do it. That is my closing thought.
And then before we sign off, I just want to say thank you, Glax, for having me here.
Of course.
I really appreciate that. You know, I know we don't really talk as often, but it was so nice to, as they say in Kingdom Hearts, reconnect.
Yes. Oh God.
You know. So, and then also thank you to Lance, to and everybody in my stream for all the kind words. Lance, Cage Guide, Satria, Wave, Soul, Emerald. Thank you guys so much for, you know, being a part of this stream here. Thank you guys for putting this together. You know, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, and again, thank you.